How's it going? We are Group 1, and we're here to showcase our game Doom and Bloom. So I'll just introduce the team right now. My name's Anfernee Goon. I worked on the client-server infrastructure, some networking side of things, and server-side gameplay features.
I'm Gus. I worked on the art and graphics, and as well as the texture splatting.
And then we have Emily, who worked with me on some of the network side of things, as well as our selection screen implementation. We have Lucas, who is another graphics guy, worked primarily on the GUI and the HUD. We have Johnson, who worked on he did all of our animations and implemented that on the graphics side of things. And then we have Christina, who worked on sound and some water particle systems. So to give you a brief intro on the game is a 2v2 area control game based on the game, or inspired by the game Plantoon. So basically the goal of the game is to plant as many flowers as you can on the map, or really more flowers than the other team. So you're going to have 3 minutes fighting against these two other players to just get control of this map. Now, before we start, can we get 2 audience members to come up and play? So let's do the gray shirt right there and black shirt over there. Okay, cool. So here right now, we're spawning in. The very beginning is a selection screen. So the way that works is it waits for 4 players to join in, and it kind of acts as a lobby system. This allows the players to select what team they want to be on, as well as what role they want to play. So for this game, there are 2 roles on the teams, because there's 2 players per team, right? You have a tiller and a seeder role. The tiller primarily works to lay down ground on the land so that the seeder can then place seeds on that ground, and then both players have a water gun, which are kind of distinct in their own way, that they can use to water that land. So that's the whole workflow for kind of getting the flowers down on the map. Now, something to note is that these flowers are vulnerable at the beginning, so if an enemy player wanted to, they could come over and till over your flowers, but over a certain period of time, they do become permanent. So eventually, at the end of the game, you kind of get to see this nice picture of just like a very natural scene, lots of flowers everywhere, and then there's kind of a special animation we have for that at the end as well. So they're choosing their teams right now. Looks like we have Emily as a seeder for Team Tropical Punch, which is the red and blue, and then we have Johnson for tilling for Team Goldilocks. So first, you spawn in, before you start the game, you spawn into this free play mode where we kind of can demo different features. So right now we're following Johnson. He is the tiller right now, so he's tilling down land. And we have a seeder putting down seeds on that land. And as you can see, Johnson is now watering as well, making those flowers actually grow. So after a certain period of time, they become permanent, as I said. So if Johnson tries to till the land right now, they won't be destroyed. But any new flowers or seeds will be destroyed. Let's see. So that's the basic workflow. You have 2 tools for each role. You press 1 for your team tool, which is either the tilling or the seeding, and you press 2 for the water balloon. The water balloon has 2 different functionalities based on what role you are. The tiller has a water balloon which charges up. It's kind of like a big charged balloon that can water everything under it as it flies and then does a big splash on the ground. Whereas the seeder has a more rapid fire gun that is kind of better for pinpointing, watering certain areas. And then as you can see, we have a third-person camera implemented, but there's also a first-person functionality as well, if you could display that. We primarily like the third person just because it displays a lot of the animations that Johnson put a lot of work into. And yeah, and this free play mode kind of served as our dev mode to kind of test a lot of features that we wanted to demo without having to start a game right away. And here's a fly toggle for us as well, kind of see an overhead view. So let's go ahead and start a game. So to start a game, we want to press 7. So once everyone press 7 and we see the green circles light up, then we can go ahead and start. So we're just waiting on player 4 to start and press 7 now. And Johnson is displaying our taunt animation. If you press R, you can taunt and do a little bit of that. So here's the game just started. They're spawning on 2 separate cliffs opposite of each other. Johnson right now is going for kind of a home base strategy. He's tilling the home base, getting down some preliminary flowers, and now he's going to start making his way slowly towards the river. So a key component of the gameplay is this river mechanic. Now we have a water gun, but you don't have infinite ammo. The water is actually refilled by just running through the river. So a river is actually a key point in controlling the game and controlling the map. So it's a good idea to kind of head down there and get flowers earlier in the game. So right now Johnson is trying to till over the enemy flowers as well. It's doing a really good job of kind of quelling the progress of the other team. And as you can see at the very top, there's a progress bar which shows which team is currently winning. And that we kind of found that very cool to implement because it's based on the total percentage of flowers on the map at the time, and is very dynamic as there's a lot of as flowers are kind of coming down. So Johnson is just really trying to get he's going for the kill right now. He's trying to get Drew. He's using the charge balloon, which is a little bit more difficult to use because it is this charge up balloon that is a little bit slower, but it does a lot of damage. Now, I think Emily is trying to counter. We'll see if she can get him, but it looks like Emily got taken out. Oh, and Johnson scores a double kill, which is very rare. So, very good job to Johnson. Round of applause. So right now he is very much trying to get control of this river. A key part of the permanent flowers as well is that they actually damage other players that are standing on them and heal your teammates. So it's a good idea to have them in key sections of the map so that you force players to run through and take damage. Now there's 51 seconds left. It's really going to be close right now. I think it's 42% to Goldilocks team and 57% to Tropical Punch. So Goldilocks team, which is Johnson's team right now, needs to step it up and get some seeds down and plant some flowers. Maybe the Goldilocks team or the Tropical Punch team can opt for a strategy to kind of just follow the other team around and make sure they can't get anything done. But that's why the water guns are there. To kind of, if you're getting into this close combat, then you're going to use the water guns to make those players respawn so you have some breathing room to put down some flowers. So about 10 seconds left. I think this one is going to go in favor of Team Tropical Punch here, but let's see. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Tropical Punch is the winner. So congratulations to them. So now I guess we can, so we have a reselect functionality which allows us to go reselect some roles. So let's go into that. But first we can check out the kind of how the map looks at the end of the game. So it's a very vibrant colors, just lots of flowers all on the map, which I think is really, really cool. So let's go into reselect, and then I'm going to have Gus take over and talk a little bit about some graphics stuff.
All right, so they're moving into the second game now, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the graphics and some of the stylistic choices that we made, and then a little bit about how we made the game. So one of the early goals for the look of the game was really taking into consideration the amount of foliage we wanted to show on the screen, and so the visual appeal of the grass and how they're all kind of gently blowing in the wind was drawing a lot from Breath of the Wild. But we quickly realized that the game was much more fast-paced than that, and people weren't really stopping to look at the flowers. So we decided to change our strategy and go for visual clarity. So that's how you get the really unnatural-looking color of the textures underneath the team's flowers. Because what we didn't want to happen was players forgetting what team they were on and then accidentally tilling their own flowers or accidentally watering the opponents. Are they gonna? Yeah, so they're in free play mode again. They can start whenever, I guess. You can see there a little bit of the grass moves to the side just a little bit around the players. Like, yeah, it's kind of hard to see underneath all the dust. Yeah, this is the same home team strategy, trying to fill up a lot of the permanent flowers on the plateau that is their spawn, because the other team can't really get up there, at least not quickly enough to be able to mow them over. But in the mid game here, you really want to have control of the territory that's next to the water, because the water is where you can refill your water, you can heal up there, and once the flowers do become permanent, you're going to have control of that territory, and you can sort of evacuate back into your space or your own river territory that's controlled by you.
Yeah, so one thing I forgot to mention earlier was that we have this very nice HUD here. I did describe the flower turf bar earlier, but as you can see, we have a nice health indicator which kind of fills up and fills down, which that was kind of taken from like a Diablo inspiration where you have these two bubbles that are kind of filling up and down with some sort of liquid. So, and then if you see, there's a nice example flower on the bottom right, which, as Gus was describing before, we were having trouble making it clear what exactly your team was and which flowers you should be flowering versus like destroying. So we kind of created that in order to help out with that those discrepancies. And then you can also see the tool selection as well there. So it looks like this game is a bit closer. It's 46% to 50. Well, it's getting a little bit. The discrepancy is getting a little bit bigger now, but Johnson is definitely going for some more kills. Traditionally, from what we've seen in practice gameplay, Johnson is a very aggressive player. He's a tiller at heart, really. So he's just going for just tilling over other enemies' flowers and just getting kills where he can. But he is a seeder right now, so he's just trying to take as much land as possible. And I think one good strategy that he's been doing is he's taking up the land that the enemy tiller has been tilling. So he's getting there before the seeder the other seeder can get there. And this kind of showcases a big part of the cooperative gameplay. It's really important that each team is communicating and really telling each other where they're going, what they're doing. Because if you get split up, it's very easy to die on your own if you get double teamed. And you can't plant flowers on your own. You can't finish the whole workflow on your own. You need both roles. So a really big part of what we wanted from this was to have a good cooperative a team game, but still be very competitive. So yeah, is there? Yeah, I guess can talk about the control texture maybe.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'll just point out some of the underlying mechanisms that, as you can see. Mm-hmm. Oh, congratulations to Team Tropical Punch for winning the second game.
That's 2-0 right now.
And they're free to keep playing and doing what they want to do. I'm just going to talk a little bit about...
Johnson, do you want to...
have them go into free play mode and then start talking and we can take questions from the audience?
Yeah, we'll definitely field questions now. And if you go to free play mode, maybe Johnson can point out a few of the things that we want to showcase. There's a few debugging features that might be cool to see that we used when we were making the game that Johnson can toggle when he gets there. But the basic way that we're doing it is there's a texture underneath that sort of lines up with the height map that is the level. And whenever a player is tilling or seeding or doing something, it's changing the colors on that underlying texture. And Johnson, could you toggle showing the debug mode maybe? Oh yeah, so there's the mini-map shows the colors then that are going into that texture. And then you can also see it on the ground here. Obviously it's not nearly it's vibrant, but not as pretty as the colored version, so we play it this way.
Were there any questions from the audience?
Sorry, what was? Oh, grass? Right, it's geometry. Each blade of the long grass is drawn individually, and there are about 5 triangles. It seems maybe a little bit ridiculous to draw each blade of grass, but there's not really a lot of performance hogs going on with our game, so as long as it wasn't affecting performance, we decided to keep it and just roll with it. And from that, you get a really nice look when the wind blows through and doesn't affect that. Oh yeah, so Johnson is showing some of our world object placement that we used to decorate the map. This isn't really a part of gameplay, but it was a cool feature where you can just go in and decorate the world with whatever objects that you built, and that was done for the trees. Yeah? Oh, good question. So all of the models, any like 3D single mesh models were done in Blender. The height map, which was done in, originally we were using Unity because we just wanted to export to a raw file and we liked that. Eventually I found some other free editors online, and actually to do this one we import it, export it through 3 programs to get it into the format that we want, and eventually it turned out okay. So, and then what was the last thing? Yeah, I guess that was all the programs used. That was all the programs outside of just our own thing. So the in-game editor was just for the trees. It was just a little extra feature.
Yeah, and Gus actually writes that out to a file after you close the game, so that's kind of how we built this level, is that we write it out to a file and then read it back in order to have the trees that you see on every client. Yeah, looks like looks like things are getting a little scrappy in free play right now, but a nice little touch to the water was we implemented these separate watercolors for the water bubbles, so that also kind of brings a little distinct vibe. And I think really the lore, I guess, of the gameplay is that each of these flowers are flower people, so-called. They're kind of like wizards. They're leveraging magic in a way to kind of bring about life, is how I like to think about it. So they each have their own special water that they kind of plant down, and it allows them to grow their flowers. But because it's their own special water, that's why it damages other people. So just a nice little tidbit there. But how much time do we have?
Okay. So this is a technique that gets reused on pretty much all the shaders in one way or another. It's just a noise texture, some Perlin noise that gets sampled and maybe scrolled with time. And in this case, it's thresholded based on time, so you'll see it sort of fizzle out. And you get the same kind of thing as making the wind blow around and the slight gradient effect on the water.
Great. That's a good point.